when I stopped playing football, I just remember it so vividly, that the feeling that I had. I was being wheeled off of the field. It was going to be my 7th knee surgery. So I knew it was over. They were adding up, and there were parts of my body that weren't working, and they had to bring hardware from the outside to hold it together. And I knew it was over, and it was so hot that day in Miami. It was so hot. And I was being wheeled off of the field, and I looked up into the crowd, and everybody was wearing bathing suits. Girls had bikinis on at a football game, and guys had bathing suits on. And I was being wheeled off of the field, and I just remember thinking, this is it. 20 years I trained to be the best at one thing, and I did it. I was the best at this one thing, and now I can't do it anymore. Now it's over, and I swear, the first thought I had, I go, this is it. I'm going to prison. And as I'm looking at these people in bathing suits being wheeled off, I'm thinking of prison. That's the first thing that entered my mind, because the one thing I do better than anybody in the world, the one skill I have, is running top speed, 25 miles per hour, and throw this head into people's bodies at 25 miles per hour. I was the best at that. Well, that skill doesn't transfer too well to the civilian world. And that's why I thought, I'm going to jail. Because if I can't express myself the way I have been for the last 20 years, if I have no vehicle, if I have no channel to put all this TNT that I feel inside of this body, if I can't express it, I'm gone, man. I'm going to prison. And then I thought, what's the one occupation I can have where I can express myself and actually make a living doing it and keep myself safe, not hurt anybody? And I go, I'm moving to New York. I'm going to get on a stage, and I'm going to let all this TNT out. And that's what I did. And that all of us, all of you, have that same exact story in you, that same exact TNT inside of you, but you haven't asked the right questions yet. If you don't know what it is, you just haven't scratched the surface of that story yet, but we will. Today is about capturing that story, and those stories can be elusive, right? Because most great stories come from a lot of pain. I mean, that's where the great ones come from, right? So the greatest part about this is the more pain you've had in your life, luckier you are. I mean, right? I finally get to be a winner. So why not use that? Why not use all that pain, all that ammunition, all that TNT that lives inside of us, and inspire people with that? And the first thing you're going to do, and you're going to do this 1,000 times during the next 3 days, you're going to go, my story's not dramatic enough, or my story doesn't mean anything, or who's going to care about my story? I promise you, that's just the process. You're going to be saying that for the next 10 years. I have been performing Run to the Litter for 14 years. 14 years. Over 1,200 times. And every time, I'm standing right over here. Every time, I'm standing right here. Ready to come out. And I hear the cue music come up, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do it this time. I don't know if it's going to be great this time. I don't know. I have that feeling. But because of all the training, I come out, I just let that thing go. I let that thing rip. And because of the training, I have this safety net. And you don't have to be confident, and we're not going to use that word at all this weekend. Confidence, this is the last time I'm saying it, confidence. We're not saying it anymore. Because the word means nothing. It means nothing. I played with the best athletes in the world. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Earl Campbell. I've worked with Al Pacino, Leonardo DiCaprio. Those people are the best at what they do. They are nervous. They have fears. They don't know if they're going to come through for themselves, but that's what makes them great. All great storytelling is courage to go forward. I'm petrified every time, right here. But something makes me take a step forward, and something makes me take another step forward every time. And I remember when I first got drafted to the Houston Oilers, we'd be in the tunnel. And in the Houston Astrodome at that time, you'd be in this dark, dark tunnel. And I was 21 years old, and I'm just standing there. First time I got my pro uniform on, standing, and you're in the dark, in a tunnel. And if you take one step there, that crowd goes crazy. And then you step back in the dark, because there's 60,000 people just waiting for you to step out, right? So you're in this dark tunnel. And while I'm standing there, they would be introducing the players. So I was the free safety on the defense, so I'd be the last one to be introduced on the defense. So I'm standing there waiting for my turn, and there's a guy with me, and he tells me when to go. And every time I was standing in that huddle, every time, I had the same exact feeling. What if I just, what if I just turn around, run out to the parking lot, get in my car, and drive back to California? I mean, who's going to miss me? I was so nervous. I had so many feelings. And I trained my whole life to do it. But still, you can't get around those emotions. You cannot. But now, we get to use those. We get to use those emotions for good. Every time I'm back there, I'm loaded with emotions. I am now. I've been in this room for the last 2.5 hours, ready, training, working out, voice, body, movement, everything that I could do to get ready for this moment now, right? And I've done it thousands and thousands of times. And those emotions and that TNT never goes away. And thank God. Thank God, because I am no longer, and you are no longer, and America and the world is no longer interested in anybody who gets up here and is casually going through the motions and like, hey, I don't get nervous. I'm comfortable up here. Yeah, you're uninteresting. You are. People say, great speakers, people who are like huge careers as speakers will hire me to coach them, right? They're making $50,000 every time they speak. I go, you've been doing this too long. You're too like comfortable up there. You've got to put yourself at risk. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to put that $50,000 a speech at risk? If you're not, go elsewhere, because we got to put that at risk to get you alive so that people will not take their eyes off of you. So all those feelings that you're going to have, all those emotions you're going to have, finally, we get to use them. Finally, that impacts our bottom line like nothing else. Your personal story, your perspective of the world is the most valuable asset you have. The most valuable. There's nothing else. There's no other training that you ever have to do the rest of your life. You know the only 2 things I teach my kids? My kids are going to master 2 things. That's it, in their whole life. Because they're going to die someday in an age called the conceptual age, or the dream society, or some people call it the transformational age, right? I'm going to die in that age, and they probably are too, okay? The iconic figure of that age, the winner of that age, is the person who can